Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second snap take of the day. Today was going to be a one video day. Summer is winding up. I'm trying to get back in the habit of just releasing one video a day, but sometimes the deck is so good that you have to do a second video. I can't make you guys wait for this. I need to get viewers this deck because, well, all right, the deck we're going to talk about is from my friend Fazzer. You can see Fazzer Snap on Twitter, Fazzer_Snap, Fazzer_Snap on Twitch, and Fazzer_Snap on YouTube. So make sure you check him out. Phenomenal person, one of my favorite people in the game, one of my closest friends, and a brilliant, brilliant deck builder who comes up with completely original stuff that absolutely kicks all sorts of booty. So he came up with this deck, and he basically gave me first crack at a video. I went and played it. I was out for my birthday. It's my birthday next week, but I celebrated this week because I'm going away. So I was out for my birthday, and like I'm out drinking, and I decided to like screw around with this deck, and I went 7-1, and my one loss was a TVA game. Okay, so we send it to BitTwiddle. Hey, BitTwiddle, shout outs. BitTwiddle is my graphics guy. He's amazing. If you ever want to get in touch with him, let me know. BitTwiddle goes immediately 5-0. Fazzer plays it on ladder, goes 10-0, and goes, okay, let's take it to Conquest. And then in Conquest, goes, wins 3 straight without a loss, because that's how you have to do it in Conquest. 3 straight Infinity tickets. So that's another 9-0. So my 7 and fake 1 and 5, that's 12, plus 10, that's 22, plus 9, that's 31. This deck has now gone 31 and 1 TVA loss. Am I saying that this is going to have a 99% win rate or whatever silly nonsense forever? Of course not. But this is a deck that I think is worth testing, worth bringing to the meta, and worth seeing that with wider play, if it can dominate. I think it probably can based on early results. I'm about to show you the deck. Before I do, please sub, like, comment, help us out. It's completely free to you. It helps us grow. And in return, we do our best to bring you the best decks in the meta ahead of curve so that you can take advantage of these new ideas before everyone knows them. So if that sounds good to you and you're willing to help us out, please hit that sub. Likes and comments also help us out with that YouTube algorithm. We'd appreciate it. All right, enough of that. Let's look at the deck. I'd like to introduce you to Evolved Surfer. This is an Evolved Silver Surfer deck, and the real beauty of this deck is in like 4 different cards and 5 different packages. There's 1,000 ways to play this, right? So very often what I'm doing on turn 1, if I have Hulk in hand, is I'm passing and then playing either Sunspot or Misty on 2, because I can drop Jeff in wherever I need to later. On that spot, I very often on 3 want to play a Gene. Gene is also fine on 4, because I can choose to go Cyclops into Gene or Cosmo into Gene just fine. And now you've basically beat Destroy decks, right? Like Destroy decks now have to play on that Gene lane, and if you have a Cosmo there, there's nothing they can do about it. They are dead in the water. You can also just drop Cyclops on Gene, and you're playing slightly off curve for a lot of the game, and that extra power helps you win games. Cyclops also does a great job of countering when your opponent's playing a Storm if you're not doing a Gene thing at the moment. If you do get a Gene down on 3 and they Storm elsewhere, they usually cannot play in that Storm lane the next turn, which means your Jeff can later win that location, or if you've got a Sunspot or Misty, you've got ways to sneak extra power in there. Okay, so you get that location, and then you can either the Gene location, you can fill it with Brood, right? And then you're going to have a so without Surfer, you've got 5, 7, 9 power there, right? And then you can add 8 more power, right? So you end up with a 17 power lane that your opponent has to play in early, which means they're usually not playing the most powerful cards. That leaves you freedom on turn 5 to do one of several things. You can wave and say now you're stuck playing in that location, either go above me or just lose the game, or you can leech and say now whatever you're trying to do has no ability to mess with me, right? Like you can't, your Jeff now is not going to be able to like help you cheat around that Gene lane, for example. You can't Doom and get around me. Doom was originally in this deck. Leech turned out to be better because like you were never really playing Doom. You can also, a thing I've often been doing is dropping Surfer and Jeff, or Surfer and Misty on 5. I get a tick on my Cyclops in those situations, and I still get a bunch of power from my Surfer going all over the place. At that point, my last turn of the game is very often Hulk. If it's not Hulk, it's Surfer and one of the other threes. It works out great. It's completely sick how busted this is, how controlling this is between Gene and Wave, and how much you're able to take advantage of that because you have all these extra ways to take advantage of it, like Brood, Jeff, Surfer, Cosmo, and Leech, and Cyclops, right? So, like, you've got Gene controlling where they play, and then you're taking advantage of that ability. Gene is so people on Twitter I've been reading lately, people saying Gene is bad. We didn't have the right Gene deck. We've now got two right Gene decks. This one today is a fantastic deck. Like, you need to play against it. You're going to get so many retreats. It's so frustrating to play against as your opponent realizes there's not really a whole lot they can do in most situations with that Gene and or with that Gene and Cosmo or with that Gene and Cyclops. And once you know what your opponent's playing, you can choose which the right way to play is. You basically like never have to leech on five, but once you're playing, especially in Conquest, and you know what your opponent is doing, you can choose to leech on five if you know that they're trying to explode something on the last turn, right? If you're going against an opposing Surfer deck, you leech on five, and then you go Surfer Brood on six, you're gonna very likely win that game. Um, for a lot of cubes, because you can snap before you leech, right? There's you can also, worth remembering, leech behind Cosmo. You can leech behind Cosmo because leech is no longer an on reveal. That works incredibly well also. And at the end of the day, if you're not surfing, Hulk is very often humongous because, well, you're playing on curve on three, but for most of the rest of the game, unless you're leeching, I guess, for most of the rest of the game, you are off curve. And then you're fine. Um, Jean is now coming into her own in the meta thanks to the resurgence of Wave. We talked about a deck yesterday that I still think is one of the best decks in the game. Safety Blade's version of the current popular move list that runs Wave. It runs Arrow and Magneto in addition to Wave as a way to, like, if you can only play one card and I can control where that card goes, you've got all that early power, right? So Wave is back in the meta in these decks. It does a fantastic job of control, which makes Hulk better. Hulk still grows on the turn five wave, right? It makes Gene better because now, like, they're having trouble trying to play in multiple places, especially at the end of the game. If there's a spot in that Gene lane, they have no choice but to go there. Please try this deck out. Let me know in the comments how it works for you. Play it wisely, snap carefully. I think you're going to be crazy impressed. I know I am. Thank you so much to Fazzer for giving us this deck. Please like, sub. We'd appreciate the support. We'll see you tomorrow morning with our giant X23 Silk Nebula Spotlight Cache analysis. Peace, everybody. Thanks for watching.